Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about the staging questions in your DNA C3A set text exam, particularly how you start to structure your responses to these big chunky questions. So there's 4 stage types that we learn about in EDUQAS GCSE drama. We learn about the proscenium march stage, which is the traditional way of staging a performance, in the round, thrust staging and traverse staging. The question might ask you about any one of these 4 types, or it may give you a choice where you have to select the staging type that you would like to talk about. Let's have a look at a practice question. Explain how one key extract in the play could be designed for staging in the round. So the first part of this question, what we're being asked to do is to choose not a whole scene, but a moment in the play, and to design it using staging in the round. So you have to choose the page number or the extract that you will focus on. You should justify your ideas with reference to the original staging. This second part of the question is asking us to have a knowledge and awareness of the original staging of DNA by Dennis Kelly. DNA was originally staged in the National Theatre, in the Cottlestowe Theatre, which is now known as the Dorfman Theatre in the National in London. It was designed by Simon Dorr, and I will link below some more information about the original staging so that you can do some research on that for yourself. You are not writing a comparative essay, so you are not talking about your ideas in comparison to the original staging, but you are simply referring to the original staging in your answer and demonstrating your knowledge. In your answer, you must also refer to the structure of the play. So we know that DNA is an episodic play. It happens in 3 different settings, and we know that it has a cyclical narrative. So the end of the play ends very much in the same way that it began. The audience position, so in the round, we know has quite an immersive experience for our audience. You want to be talking about that in your answer, and the atmosphere that would create. So what extract are you choosing and what kind of atmosphere are you hoping to achieve? The production style. This is up to you whether you want to choose a naturalistic or a more non-naturalistic kind of style. We'll talk more about that later. And set and props, including use of colour. And the examiners are really keen for you to talk about your use of colour throughout your answer. Sometimes students forget to talk about this, and obviously colour can be very symbolic, can have a lot to say about your ideas, so please do include colour in your answer. When structuring your answer, unfortunately, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. We often talk about writing frames in drama and we give you ways to structure your responses, but for these 15-mark questions, there's a number of things that you will want to include, but there's not necessarily a writing frame which you can follow, unfortunately. Remember, this exam is testing your creativity, so it's really important that you are exploring your ideas in detail rather than worrying too much about fitting every single little bit in with your answer. Please make sure that you respond to the bullet points and that you've answered every single part of what the question is asking you to talk about. However, rather than worrying about a specific writing structure, you can let your creativity guide you and talk about your ideas in depth. Here's some things that you will want to talk about: your choice of staging, the original staging, the style that you've chosen, your artistic intentions, that means what do you hope to achieve with your choice of staging or your extract, the audience and their experience, the restrictions, so are there any restrictions of this kind of staging, such as sightlines, for example, and how will you combat those or how will you address those in your performance, set, props, colour, and finally a wow item or idea. This exam is testing your creativity, so it's really, really important that you are talking about something that's not a obvious or a quite realistic set design. So for example, if you're doing a scene that's set in a forest and you suggest to put a plastic tree in the centre of the stage, we're probably not going to be aiming for a band 5 answer. So I want you to come up with the most creative, spontaneous ideas you can think of. Money is no object with these questions, so you don't have to worry about how much it would cost if you were to actually put this production on. So on this last slide, you will see an example of how you may structure your response to a 15-mark question. I've written up some questions in an almost interview-like style. so that you can really break down what it is that this question is asking you to do. Obviously, you cannot remember this essay structure for your exam, but it's a really, really good place to start to get the hang of how these questions are answered and how you are expected to respond to these big 15-mark questions. I hope that's been helpful. And in another video, I'm going to go through some examples and model answers of 15-mark staging questions.